This is All This Science, the science podcast that describes an interesting aspect of science in 5 minutes or less. I'm Julia, and I'm the guest podcaster for this episode, The Curl in Curling. In this episode, we will also be hearing from our guest speaker, Hannah. Curling is a popular Canadian sport where rocks are thrown down a sheet of ice. A curling game has 10 ends, with each team throwing 8 rocks per end. The goal is to get your rocks closest to the center of the house, called the button. Curling gets its name from the path that the rocks take when moving down a sheet of ice. In this episode, we will be discussing the curl in curling, how it happens, how it is made, as well as answering some other commonly asked questions. To help us debunk the science behind curling, let's bring in our guest speaker, Hannah.
Hi, Julia.
Hi, Hannah. It's great to have you on the show today. Let's get into some questions. How do curling rocks travel down the ice?
Curling rocks are concave on the bottom with a running band. The running band is the only part of the stone to touch the ice. This causes less friction, which allows the stone to travel farther. This lack of friction is also one of the reasons that the ice is pebbled.
Hold on. Pebble? What's that?
This is when ice makers spray droplets of water onto the sheet of ice to form pebbles or cones. After this, the ice is run over by a nipping machine, which levels the pebble.
So we know what the pebble is, but what does the pebble do exactly?
The pebble reduces the friction between the rock and the ice, which allows the rock to travel farther. It is also one of the main reasons that rocks curl.
Thank you. Now for the main question that we've all been waiting for. Why do rocks curl?
There are a few different ideas of why rocks curl. There was one idea from researchers in Sweden in 2013 that suggests that rocks curl by scratch guiding or track steering, but we're going to focus on a more recent and accurate idea. Dr. Mark Shangelski, a physics professor at the University of Northern British Columbia, proposed that rocks may be momentarily sticking to the pebble, causing small pivots in the movement of the stone. He worked with Dr. Edward Lazowski, a professor of Earth and Atmospheric Sciences at the University of Alberta, to develop a formula using his idea. The formula takes into account the radius and running band of the rock, the size and density of the pebble, the hardness and elasticity of the ice, the speed of the rock, and the time it takes to move down the ice. It also takes sweeping into account. This model shows the amount of rotation of the rock to have no effect on the curl. It contradicts many earlier beliefs that the curl is all due to friction. Instead, the scientists believe it sticks to the pebble before pulling apart and curling. This is known as the stick, pivot, slide model.
I see. So even today, the curl in curling is somewhat of a mystery. I wonder which theory will prevail in the end. So, we've covered why rocks curl. But is there any way for players to actually control this curl?
There is. Sweeping is used by curlers to break down the pebble. This happens when players want to make the rock go farther or curl less. The friction from the brush causes the pebble to melt, leaving a thin layer of water between the ice and the rock.
Wow, who knew there would be so many fascinating aspects behind the science of curling? Well, that brings us to the end of our time. A big thank you to Hannah for joining me on this episode. My name is Julia, and I'm so glad you could join me today. I hope you were able to take away something valuable for your curious brains. Thanks for listening to All This Science. Contact us at allthisscience@gmail.com if you'd like.